Hi, this is Sarah Root, and this is my case study for Introduction to Building Administration, EDL 852. So this case study deals with who should create the school's vision. So we have a community, and in this community is the Lightville Community School District. It is a rural area with over 60% of the families and people living on farms. The population, however, is increasing. They have two schools currently. There is an elementary that's K through 6, and then a junior and senior high school that are grades 7 through 12. And it's on a large site of 65 acres. And they thought at the time that they wouldn't have to add anything else, that this would take care of their needs. And there has been an increase in the population, in particular because it's only 10 miles away from a large city. And so a bunch of families have started to move into the area because of low land costs. They like the rural area and because of the great school district. However, they're running out of room. So the superintendent, Joe Rawlings, has decided that because they're running out of room and they're trying to figure out what to do with their schools, he hires an architectural firm to come in, and they come up with 3 options for the community. So they can either add on just to the junior senior high school, bring the 6th graders over from the elementary and kind of do it that way. They can do option 2, which is adding on to both schools to make room for new students, or they build a middle school and then have K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. So this decision, though, needs to be made, and the community is not fully supportive of building a new middle school. So there are different factions of people. Those farmers who own large areas of land are against any building. They don't want to build anything. They do recognize that maybe they're out of room, but they are concerned about what that means for the land. There's a bunch of people who support options 1 and 2, but are concerned about building a new school because of debt, taking on new debt, and also tax increases to pay for it. And then all these, especially these new people who have come in from these young families and those with young children, are in favor of this new school. So it goes to the Board of Education. They vote 4-1 to move forward with the new middle school, and it's put to a vote for the community, and it is slim margins to pass that to build a new middle school. It's 53% to 47%. So there is some definitely some disagreement. The community as a whole does not necessarily support the new middle school. So through that process, though, so it's moving forward, and it's going to take about 18 months to build, and about 12 months before the school opens, they hire a new principal, and they decide to hire Susan Potter, who is myself, as the new principal. I am from a suburban area, and I was a teacher. And I was a principal in a suburban middle school, and they have brought me to the rural community to open this new school. While I do not know this community, and that does make me a little anxious, especially being rural when that's not something I'm used to, I'm really excited about the opportunity, though, to build a middle school from the ground up. And that is my area of expertise, is middle school education. And so my focus over the next 12 months are staffing the middle school, which fortunately I was able to do by pulling teachers from the other schools. And then I only had to hire 4 other teachers from outside of those areas. So that was pretty great. And then I'm also going to be in charge of organizing the programs, which is the curriculum and instructional support. And fortunately, I'm going to utilize my new staff to do that with me. And then also oversee the construction and making sure the facility is completely ready for students in 12 months. So through this process, it's decided I need an advisory committee, to make decisions moving forward for this new middle school. I'm calling it the Visioning and Planning Committee, and there are 4 teachers from 4 different subjects and 4 parents on this advisory committee. And I decide kind of the norms for the group are we're going to operate democratically. Everyone has a vote, and the hope, though, is that we will have consensus. We'll all vote for the same things to move forward so that we're all on the same page. And also that the first task is to create a vision statement. Where are we going? And so that that can guide all of our future decisions. There is a disagreement, though, because I would prefer not to chair the committee. I would like to share that responsibility with someone else to kind of give them an opportunity to lead and to share with them, right? Ethically, I think that's what we should do. And so there's a disagreement, though, because the advisory committee would prefer that I chair and lead the group. As it is, they did bring me in for that reason, to lead this process. However, I really push back, and I really want someone else to chair the committee. And we agree on Helen Burke, but only if I support and bring her and help her lead through this process. So that's the advisory committee. So this is how the conflict unfolds. So I meet with Helen to develop an agenda for our first meeting. And we decide, and I tell her about how important it is to develop the vision, that we need to develop a vision statement, and that I'd like them to get feedback and move forward, right? So I would like to get each person's philosophy of education, philosophy for the middle school, and kind of collectively put it together and use that to create a vision statement. Now, Helen, though, says, hey, you're a visionary leader. I'm a visionary leader. So you need to write the vision statement, and then we'll give you feedback and we'll push it through, and we'll pass it here, and we'll pass it to the Board of Education because my brother's on the board. We'll get it approved. We're good. But I disagree, right? I don't really know this community. I need them to give me feedback so I know where do we want this to go. I understand middle school education, sure, but not in this rural community and in a rural setting. So we have a disagreement, and we decide, hey, we'll just bring it before our advisory committee and let them decide. So we move the discussion to the meeting. And so Helen shares her viewpoints first with the group, and then I share mine. And the group as a whole, except for one and myself, agree with Helen that I should write the vision statement, present it to them, they'll give me some feedback, and then we'll push it through to the Board of Education. So it's the same conclusion, that instead of a collective vision, it's my vision. And so I'm left trying to decide what to do next. So as I consider my options, as I get to my options, there's some things to consider. So the first one being legal issues. Fortunately, there's no issues with legality when it comes to the conflict, because it has to do with the school's vision statement, which isn't it's not part of any official law, regulation, or policy. However, I do think there are some ethical issues that come up with this situation. So one of them being that Helen has a relationship with a board member to get preferential treatment, meaning her brother, and so that he can help push things along. I do think that ethically that's probably not the best, right? Because there's going to be a lack of trust among Helen, board member, myself, the community, because it looks like maybe we're doing this internally and not considering the community and driving deeper wedges. So that has raised some flags for me ethically. I have a moral obligation to follow the advisory committee's vote. And so this kind of puts me in a rough spot, because I set the norm for voting democratically and coming to a consensus, which essentially happened, minus myself and one other. So now I have this moral obligation to follow through on some level with what they've asked me to do. And that's an important thing to consider, because we're trying to build trust with each other. I'm trying to trust them. They need to trust me. And so that also could lead to some ethical issues if I go against them. And I do find when it comes to ethical issues and building a school community, it's not always about the end result. It's not always, yes, the vision statement is incredibly important and we do have to build that, but it is important to consider how we're going to get there. And so those are some ethical issues I have recognized through this case. So the synthesis. So this is what's going on. The advisory committee of the new middle school disagrees with the principal, myself, and appoints her to create the vision statement instead of using their knowledge of the community to develop the vision collaboratively. All right, so we're going to boil down the facts here. So here are the people. So we have Susan Potter, myself, the new principal. There is who I, like I said, do not have a knowledge of this rural area and come from a suburban background in education. There's Superintendent Joe Rawlings, and there's a Board of Education with 5 members that we know of. It was a 4-to-1 vote, so there's an assumption that there are 5 members. Helen Burke is the chair of the advisory committee and a teacher. She's an English and social studies teacher for the new middle school. Dan Colby, who I didn't mention earlier, but he is also a committee member and the PE teacher. There's the advisory committee members. There's 4 parents and 4 teachers, right? Helen and Dan. There's 2 others that also represent different departments within the middle school. There was the architects from the architectural firm. And then there are community members. The ones mentioned in particular were farmers and then new immigrants. Oh, and what we don't know is necessarily the demographics of the community. The place is a rural community. We know that 60% live on farms. It is in the Lightville Community School District. There are existing schools that sit on a 65-acre site. The elementary is 22 years old and the junior-senior high school is 11 years old. It is a growing community, and because it's 10 miles away from a major city, new families are moving in, and it has a 2% population increase per year. And they are out of room. So the program it's a middle school. It's going to be grades 6 through 8. It's part of a K-12 public school system. It does serve general education students, and because it serves general education students, it must serve special education students. According to IDEA and FAPE, which is free and appropriate public education, that means that even though it's not mentioned, it must serve all both populations of students. So let's review and prioritize here. So here's some of the issues. The community is not being consulted. So the vision statement may not be supported and may create division among the stakeholders. So that's something that I am considering as I think about options. There's no collaboration here. There's a lack of collaboration. The principal, myself, I want to work with my advisory committee to create this vision statement because I need their knowledge about the area to create the vision statement. But they want me to do the work. Ultimately, the decision, I think, can be made that there are options available to problem solve and move forward. All right, so here are the options and possible consequences. So option 1, do what the committee has asked. So I can follow through, I can do the vision statement and elicit their feedback, and we just push it all through, right? The consequence of that, though, is the stakeholders are not involved. This is already a community that is quite split on this, and I think that if we do this, if we do it that way, we are not considering the other community members. We're not collaborating, and it's really showing some poor leadership on my part. Option number 2, I could reject the advisory committee's decision for me to write it and follow my original plan, what I wanted to do initially, like just kind of throw the vote out and say, nope, I'm going to do it my way. While I might think that's collaborating with people. Ultimately, it's not. And it's going to create division where now there's going to be a lack of trust. And there's some ethics involved in there where I may not be trusted as an ethical decision maker. Option 3 is to do a survey, like a questionnaire for the community. Consult the other principals of the elementary and the junior senior high, and use that information to compose a vision statement that I will work on and compose, and work with the team and work with my advisory committee to do so. The consequences of that one, though, it may take a long time to do, and the committee may be upset with me for taking extra time to do that instead of moving on to other issues. And option 4 is to go back to the committee with data and research on vision statements and kind of explain like why this is so important, and then ask them to participate again in drafting this vision with me, and asking them to maybe do similar to what I said before, but maybe a little bit less involved, but just with more of an understanding of what the vision statement is and why it's important. The consequences of that, though, is that they really do appear that they don't want to necessarily be involved in the drafting of the initial vision statement, and it would kind of be forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. Again, calling into question like what do we want out of this, and what does the process look like, and is it ethical? So I'm going to evaluate those options. So the first option was to follow the plan. The pros are the committee gets what they want. And I know that the committee and the board will approve of whatever we decide. The cons, though, is I could lose support from stakeholders. Again, we need to pull in those stakeholders and those community members to do this together. And ultimately, it's not collaborative, and that's an important piece. I could reject the plan. The pros from that is I can get input from the community and make them participate, and it does follow best practices in terms of how to develop a vision statement. However, the cons are it's going to cause conflict for sure, and we're going to lose trust of the committee, and may even get to the point where I'd have to get new ones in, and I think we would lose a lot of ground. Third option is to survey and consult. The pros is that there is stakeholder involvement, and it will meet the needs of students and adults because it's taking into all those pieces into consideration. The cons is that we may not agree, and it's on what those, there may be too much information, and it may take, it's going to take more time. And so those are some of the cons. The fourth option is to go back to the group and present research. The pros is it could lead to some collaboration with the committee. Best practices for creating a vision statement are considered, but the cons are they could still resist participating, and I do think it would again cause some conflict. So I decided, after considering all the options, the best option is to survey and consult. Ultimately, the vision needs to contain the core set of values of the community and be shared by everyone, by all the stakeholders, in order to be effective and to drive future decision making. And so that's what we need to do in order to provide the best school environment possible to meet the needs and well-being of each student and adult in the middle school, and prepare them for a life after moving to high school and beyond. So here's my plan of action. So to make a collaborative vision statement, step 1, I would like to consult with the other two principals on the process and values in their vision statements, just to give me a frame of reference. Like, what am I working with? What do I need to understand before I go to step 2, which is develop a survey that is quick and easy for all stakeholders. I have found that when they are too involved, people aren't going to answer, and they're already kind of testy, right? People are already kind of upset. So I need to make something that is engaging but quick, and something that I really do get accurate feedback from. Step 3 is then to take that survey to the committee and collaborate with them to make adjustments as needed. Maybe they think of a question that I didn't think of, or maybe there's something I'm asking they don't think I should. So I want their feedback to make this a collaborative effort. Step 4 is then to send that survey out to all stakeholders and determine the top 3 values and beliefs from the surveys. I think that's important to kind of collect that information and kind of pinpoint what are those most important pieces to include. Step 5 then is I will design the vision statement as the board voted. That incorporates, though, the results of the survey. I will then present that vision statement to the advisory committee for consideration. Step 7 is then we can revise. They can give me feedback and we can work together to create this vision statement. And then step 8 is present that collaborative vision statement to the Board of Education for approval. And hopefully it's done in a way so we don't have to influence Helen's brother to say, to push it through. I think that if we do it this way, we don't have to worry about any ethical issues with that. Step 9 then is to utilize the vision statement to guide all other decisions that we're going to be making. There's going to be a lot of decisions this year as a new principal, and I want to make sure that the vision, mission, philosophy is all in line and that we can make decisions appropriately for that meet those needs for the students and adults and teachers and everyone involved. And step 10, make sure that that vision statement has to be communicated to all stakeholders. It needs to be blasted out, social media, put in the halls, put everywhere, so that they know that that is what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to provide for students and provide for this community. And step 11, really important, evaluate and revise the vision statement as needed. We may find that there's a part of it that doesn't end up working. Now, using this process, hopefully that doesn't happen, but it could. And maybe it's over time. And being willing to evaluate and revise is really important. So here's some contingency plans. So first is a warning. This is for me to share with the group, with my advisory committee, and that's that since the community is already at odds with the school, collaboration is more important than ever. I could write this vision statement, but it's not going to do what we want it to do. We want this middle school to bring the community together, not tear it apart. And I think that if I do it by myself, it's not ethical and it doesn't build collaboration. It doesn't build any sort of bridges, and that shouldn't be done. People involved. I need all the stakeholders involved in this process, and that includes businesses and farmers. And building and making a commitment to those relationships helps achieve the vision of the school, right? Helps move us forward. Plan B, if that plan were not to work, which I think it will, but plan B, I'd probably try to use the research and data on vision statements to collaborate with the committee. Again, trying to honor their vote, but also trying to help get them to help me. Again, going back to that warning, focusing on that collaboration so that we can move forward and build a community that is supportive of these students and supportive of the school and grow together. This is the standards for this assignment and my reflection. And that is it for me. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, let me know.